Welcome to this week's episode of Success in Women. I'm Linda.
And I'm Andrea, aka Thing Grandma.
So we're wearing our funny t-shirts because we're doing this episode and it's the week before Halloween.
Right.
So we figured, why not wear something
Get into the spirit.
a little bit without fully dressing up and making fools of ourselves. Not that we wouldn't do that, but we didn't do it today.
Exactly. Well, I'm doing the Dr. Seuss character, Thing Grandma.
Well,
instead of Thing One.
It'll go well with our topic today because we're going to be talking about storytelling.
Right.
And what that means. But Andrea, you have your tip of the week. What is it?
Okay, well, this is a tip that I saw, and I haven't tried it, but I'm definitely going to do it because lately, I don't know if you've been finding that, I've been in the stores and they have eggs on sale. And also, especially if they're pasture raised, which I like to buy, or the omega ones, because they're very expensive, but I prefer to use them. So when they're on sale, I would like to buy them, but how many eggs can you use? It's not like that eggs are can stay in the fridge for a year like most products nowadays. Anyways, I saw this tip. So you cannot freeze them in the shell, but you can freeze them if you crack open the egg.
Oh.
So what you do is you get an ice tray, and in each cube you put a cracked egg.
Oh.
Throw them in the freezer, and when they're frozen, then you can take them out and put them in a baggie.
Oh.
And as you need them, how you defrost them is you just take what you need, put like say 2 eggs in a bowl, and let them thaw at room temperature. And they're good to go. Now,
and that's for frying or poached?
Now see, this I don't know. I'm going to try it. And I mean, it would be definitely great for baking. And we know that baking season is coming, Christmas and whatever.
Right.
So I'm thinking that because of that. But I don't know how they thaw. If they thaw that you can just fry them like a normal egg or not. I'll keep you posted.
Oh, good.
But at least try.
That'll be one interesting thing.
If you see them on sale, grab them and try it.
Wow. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Always
what
something.
you learn on the internet.
That's true, right? I love the internet.
I'm always looking for tips, to make life easier.
That's true. And but I did read somewhere that even though they have a due date, you can still eat the eggs at least a couple weeks after the due date.
Well, this is what I've heard, because when I go up to where my daughter lives, they have eggs, the farmers, alongside the road, and they're just sitting there. Like, it's not like they're worried about them expiring or whatever. I don't know. Like, so we've grabbed a few, and I mean, they're very weird when you get them right from the farm. So you get some blue ones,
Oh, and they did. They talked about that as well, actually. And they showed right online, they were showing the different colors of eggs.
Yes.
They're all the same in the sense what's inside. But yes, they said from the farmer, you can get all kinds of colors.
I know.
Which is really interesting.
Yeah. And this one farmer, she has a fridge beside her garage that you can just go, and it's on an honor system.
Yeah.
So we grabbed one once when we opened them, and they were still like dirty from the yard, right? But at least they're
fresh,
pasture raised, and they're fresh, and you're getting all the good stuff that they're, pecking up off the ground. Supposedly that's the best for you. So we try when we can.
Yeah. You know what's interesting, and I know we got to get on to the show, but I also read somewhere recently that, do you know that honey never expires?
That's what I heard.
I had never heard that before.
Mm-hmm.
And you never have to worry about having that and then, having it and thinking, oh, this is getting too old, I better get rid of it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't expire. There's nothing that goes bad in it.
I know. Isn't that amazing?
Coming from nature. Oh, I know where I got it from, believe it or not. I was reading a book on my cruise recently, and it was called Mad Bee or Mad Honey or something, but it was about a beekeeper. But that's where I heard and read that literally honey never goes bad.
Yeah. And that's why I'm crazy about this new product I've been talking about on Instagram and whatever, this Beauty from Bees. So watch out for those. And I'm going to have some new posting of some new products that I just received. So
see the stories we tell.
Yeah.
And this kind of brings us into our episode this week, because everybody needs a story, and everybody has a story.
Oh, definitely.
And it's the stories that we tell. And sometimes that story is going to help you because it's the same story you're going to tell to many different people. So if you go on YouTube, a lot of times, if you've actually listened to almost any of the big influencers, and Tony Robbins will be one I'm going to use as an example because he's out there and everybody knows his name.
Right.
But Tony will tell you about why he got to do what he's doing now. You know, how his mom was, I think, a single mom, very, 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 very poor, struggling.
Wow.
Sometimes they didn't even know where they'd get food. Tony remembers one holiday where they were given like a food basket. And he said he never forgot that. And that's why he does so much when I mean, he is an influencer, but he makes a lot of money, but he tries to do things to give back to society and, you know, giving and feeding, I'll say, millions of families. Like Tony will do that, but that's part of his story from when he was young and going
why
through.
he does what he does.
And why he does what he does. Absolutely.
So passionate. Yeah.
He's very passionate about helping other people. And so even though he runs a lot of courses and he charges for all that, yes, he's in business to make money,
of course,
but he also doesn't keep it and hoard it. He's actually out there trying to help other people and in a lot of different ways. And feeding a lot of families is one of his biggest, closest to his heart, passionate things because of because of what he went through.
Well, I mean, when you talk about storytelling, it's so funny because if you watch any of the shows, reality shows like Survivor or The Voice, especially The Voice, these young people all have a story. And it's amazing, the stories and what people have endured, what they've come from and how they've survived, how they've, you know, made the best of their life. And this year on The Voice, they have the new coach. Oh my goodness. Snoop Dogg.
Oh, yes, I did see that.
And I'll tell you, he is incredible.
He must have a story or two.
He's got stories. And his big thing right now is coaching. That's how he gives back. He says he wants to coach these young people that would never have a chance, or maybe they've got some type of disability. And he's got all kinds of programs for all of these children. And he's so passionate about it. And it was funny because I watched it the other night and he was pretending to be a coach, coaching the other coaches on how to steal, you know, contestants from each other. And he's just a wonderful person. And he's doing stuff with Martha Stewart. He was the American representative at the Olympics this year. He was all over Paris.
You see, this is going to be interesting because I bet you if you Google him and you say, what's Snoop Dogg's story, you're going to find out what, like, I'll say his upbringing or something that made him the person that he is today, and the reasons why he wants to give back to society and in the ways that he's doing it.
And I think when you have those stories, those, you know, hard luck stories sort of as a child or growing up, you really do want to give back when you are able to, when you're in a position to give back. And you should, so you should, but a lot of them do. And that's really the heart of success. You should want to give back.
Right. The thing is, having your own story, like, you know, our story. Andrew and I both grew up on the same street, both from, I'm going to say, lower middle class because we had large families. Our fathers worked in the mine. And one of the things about us is we wanted to make sure that we didn't let our environment define who we are today as adults and now older adults.
Right.
That we can do and become anything that we choose to do.
Definitely.
So it doesn't have to keep you down.
No.
But you have to have that story that, yes, we can become successful in our own right.
That's right.
And our story tells you, and most people's stories will be, I'm going to say, hard luck in the sense that they might have lost everything. They might have started with absolutely nothing, like Tony Robbins. He lived in his car for a while.
Jim Carrey lived in his car.
A lot of
Tyler
people struggle.
Perry, all of them, they all struggled.
Yes.
And maybe that's what made them successful. That they wanted to get out. And
well, they already knew they couldn't go any lower than they were. So the only way is to go up.
Or live like that, like how many homeless people are on the street, right? And no, but they didn't want to stay there.
But they wanted people to know their story.
Yes.
They could have hidden it because some people get embarrassed about, certain things in their life. But those stories are what people remember, and they remember that about you. And
you should be proud.
Absolutely, because of who you are today.
Yes.
And
it's not you, it wasn't you that you were not asked to be born into a certain situation. That was just what you were handed you in your circumstance. But you still didn't let that stop you from being who you were meant to be. And you should be very proud of that.
And so you want to tell your story.
Definitely.
You want people to know, because sometimes people will look at you and they'll think, oh yeah, well, it's easy for you because you're already successful or you already have a lot of money, but it's tough for me. I mean, I don't have anything. I've never had the opportunity to, get in front of these people or this audience or whatever. But they didn't start that way.
No, there's no excuse.
And so you want to share that story to let people know, no, I'm the same. I was where you were. I might have even been less than where you were. But
if you see their backstory, then you say, you know what? It can happen for me.
And people will respect you more for the story
of
where you came from. They can relate.
And that's what I always say. Like, in my situation when I came from, we came from Azilda and moved to Toronto and all that. And I know a few people, like when I would go home and think, oh, look at the snob, look at the snob. But, I'd say, no, this can happen for you too. You want to move to Toronto. Oh, Toronto, big city. Well, get over that. Get over the fear, just do it if that's what you want.
That's right. If that's what you want. Don't do anything if that's not what you want. If that's somebody else's goal, let it be their goal.
Right.
You don't have to follow.
Exactly.
But the whole thing is that your story is who you are today. Whatever that story was. And so don't be afraid to share that story because people can relate to stories. You've already mentioned that. You can give statistics about this and that, whatever. No one's going to remember that. As soon as you finish talking about it, that's it. It's over. But even in your job, when you're trying to get yourself ahead, whether it's for, I'll say, you're being interviewed for a job promotion or whatever, tell a story, something of what you can connect in your life that brought you to this point and why you think that you would be the best candidate for that particular position.
Why you should be promoted.
Yes.
Because I want it.
But these are the reasons why. Because, and you tell your story. The interviewers or interviewees or whatever, I'm always mixing those up. The point is you've got people that are interviewing you and they're going to remember your stories. They're going to remember you because of the stories you've told.
Exactly. And that's one thing, like with, what is it? America's Got Talent, AGT. Simon Cowell always says, there's certain things that, and I know it's part of their story and then how far they came from that story. And he always says, I will remember this audition. In other auditions, he'll look at the guy next to him, oh, he's forgettable. But so make it about you and your story. And a lot of these people, they get on stage and they say, oh, I had brain cancer, or I was in an accident, I couldn't, because he'll say, well, what brings you here now? And they'll say, well, I had this, I had that, da, da, da. And then he hears them sing and they're great, or they do whatever they're there for. And they say, I will remember this. But it's because of the story behind it and that they succeeded.
What was the lady that, she was from Britain, she was still living with her parents, she was an older woman. I think she had Asperger's or she was a bit
you're
autistic.
talking about Susie Boyle?
Yes, Susan Boyle. Susan Boyle.
Yeah.
And she had a story because when she got up on stage, they basically, I'm sure, rolled their eyes.
They did roll their eyes.
Yeah.
I go back and I watch that audition over and over. It's so inspiring, and when the looks on their faces when she opened her mouth, because they laughed when she said she wanted to be like one of their famous singers, like a Sarah Brighton, like one of the great opera singers, right?
Yeah.
And they laughed and they rolled their eyes. Wow.
Between her voice and her story, she was unforgettable.
Unforgettable.
Now, even though I slightly forgot her name briefly, because I did, as soon as you said Susan, then I remembered it was Susan Boyle, but I can see her face. You know, I remember everything about that, you know, that story, yes.
And look how famous, well, it was overwhelming for her actually in the beginning.
It was.
Now she's doing better, but yes, it's
and
amazing.
That's the other thing, Andrea. It's kind of be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you think that that's what you want, but really in the end, is it?
Is it?
Because things will change.
Because you know what? The people in this world and the media, they go nuts. They don't give you a chance to get used to being famous, or like, she just wanted to be heard and recognized that she had a great voice.
And she wanted to share it.
And I'm sure she didn't have a clue how fast that was going to change her life. Overnight. And they were bombarding her, you know, with interviews. And she's just a small town little girl from Scotland, and she couldn't handle it. Yeah. And, you know, it almost broke her. You know, and so sometimes, you have to be careful what you wish for.
But it's good that she was able to, I'll say, overcome, because she does have an incredible voice. And it would have been sad for somebody not to have shared that with the world.
Well, that's how I feel about my daughter.
And I was going to say, so this is why I was going to bring this up. Because one of the things, if you don't understand how important stories are to your success, you better tune in, because this happened to Andrea's daughter. Andrea at the time did not understand the importance of the story, and her story was of a nice middle-class family that put her daughter through dance and, you know, different things, gave her the opportunity to go, but her story wasn't, I'm going to say, almost a hard luck story that a lot of the others, you know, were. If Andrea had really told her proper story, which maybe at the time she thought was an embarrassment because she didn't understand the importance of
the Canadian Idol episode you're talking about?
Yes. And the fact that, you know, Andrea, when you came, like you said, you came from a small town. We lived a very basic, simple life. We didn't appreciate it the same way, you know, that we can looking back now. But at the time, we wanted to escape to something better. And it was kind of like my parents, when they left the farm, they wanted us to be more Canadianized in the sense of speaking English. So my parents never spoke to us in Ukrainian at home because they wanted to make sure we were just Canadianized.
Right.
So Andrea's daughter has this opportunity. She's very talented young lady, goes for the Canadian Idol, but her story wasn't strong enough to resonate.
She got the gold ticket. She got the gold ticket.
Yeah.
And she was the first one to get the gold ticket in Toronto. There was singer after singer after singer, and Stacey actually got the first gold because she won the Chum radio contest.
Right.
So she won that contest to go directly to the judges, and then she got the first gold ticket. But then after that, they sent this 10-page questionnaire that you had to answer to go to the next step. And one of it was, you know, if we come to your home, what would we find? And what was your first concert like? And, you know, so I just said, because we were at that, you know, we still are. I mean, my husband's Italian. My mother-in-law lived with us. We all lived together. We were happy. So I said, just put one big happy Italian family. Mistake. I should have put a hard luck story. Or, you
could have.
My mom came from a small village and she came to the big city. She's a competitive Canadian curler. I didn't even think to put that in because that would have been something they would have latched onto. There was a story.
But also, you know, your mom had, 6 kids in your family? You know what I mean? She didn't work.
And Eddie didn't speak a word of English till he went to grade 1. Like all that stuff, they wanted a story.
Right.
They want a story so that they can tell. Again,
but because that's what the media.
It's a business. It's a business.
Yes.
And that's what sells. Stories.
Well, and you know, it's interesting, Andrea, because you know how they always say, They don't want to hear the good luck stories.
No.
They want to hear like you basically crawled your way up. And everybody, unless you're born into like, a very wealthy family, we all came from some hard luck story
Yes.
that we didn't appreciate. That's what made us the people we are.
Exactly.
And those stories are so important because wherever you are in your level of success, you came from somewhere and something. And even if you just say came from that wealthy family, but you had to struggle because your family said, no, you got to figure it out on your own, work-wise, whatever. We're paying for your education. You're educated. It's up to you now. Get a job.
Right.
That's still a hard luck story then, because you can't use your family name to open up the doors because they're not going to give you any of that.
And some don't even want to. Like when you look at the Sheen family, Martin Sheen, Charlie Sheen. Well, the one, what's his name? Esteban? What's his first name? Emilio Esteban. Yeah. But he didn't want to use his father's name. You know, he wanted to do it on his own. So some have that confidence and courage to do that. It's
but
not
the
easy
point is,
for
it's
everybody.
a story.
It's his story. It's his story. Yes.
Yeah. So you need and should want to promote yourself.
Share.
And even when people talk now today about branding who they are as a brand, talk about your story. That made you who you are. And whoever you're going to be in this future all stems from, I'm going to say the bottom up. And that means your parents or your grandparents.
Right.
And that struggle that they had, because even with your in-laws, Sandra, they came from Italy.
Yes.
Like you said, not speaking any English. And I had neighbors where I used to live, and the wife and the mother, so the mother-in-law of my neighbor, they never spoke a word of English. They didn't even want to integrate.
Ooh.
And so they would be kept in that little bubble, and their circle only was around Italians, where your in-laws not only spoke English, but totally integrated into the Canadian society.
Right. My father-in-law, started a business with his brother-in-law, in the construction business. And my mother-in-law worked in the hospital with the babies in the nursery. So they had to integrate, socially they stuck with their friends because it's easier,
it
right?
was comfortable.
But during the, in the work hours, they were with other people. And so eventually, when Eddie went to school, he had to learn to speak English, and he did.
And food.
Oh,
because that's part of the story, right?
Right.
Because you can be teased about what you bring to lunch.
Oh yes, They used to. His mother made him these big honking sandwiches, and it was like he wanted to throw them out because he didn't want them to see. And speaking about that, look at our good friend, my good friend who's from Newfoundland, and he's 75 now. But when he was younger, they were considered poor because he took lobster sandwiches to school. But you were poor if you had to eat lobster. Can you imagine how times have changed?
Well, what's interesting about that you mentioned that, because when I was on my Canada and New England cruise, and I can't even remember where the stories were coming from, but they talked about the lobster, and that's what you fed to the poor people. Yeah. And they thought they were being hard done by because they were getting lobster all the time. Oh yeah.
Well,
that's kind of funny how
it is.
Things turn around.
They turn around.
Now we have to pay through the nose for that.
Yeah.
And I love lobster. And of course I had to have, the lobster rolls and stuff while, I was visiting some of the ports. But but it's the stories.
Yeah.
And stories play a big role in your life. And it will play a bigger part in your success if you let it.
Right.
And make sure that you're passing that on to your kids because it is important.
It's a fun night when you sit around with your kids and talk about old stories.
And that's what they remember.
They do. They remember and they get a kick out of it.
It's why I'll say young people and grandparents get along so well, because the grandparents always want to tell stories.
Yeah.
They've told them the whole family, and they're already tired of them, but the grandkids love hearing the stories and how, when they went to school or how they did certain things, but they remember the stories. Even for teaching, it's really good because that's what kids will remember.
Yeah.
Anyway, we hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Success in Women. And if you did,
like,
share,
and please subscribe.
and don't forget, we need the thumbs up. And we're on Spotify,
Yes.
so you can listen if you don't have the time to watch.
Yeah.
So
get out there and have fun on Halloween.
Oh,
Dress
yeah.
up, answer the door. That's what we do here. We answer the door. My daughters all dress up. The kids love it. Have fun.
Enjoy. Be a kid again.
Exactly.
Until next week, I'm Linda.
I'm Andrea.